Hi, it's Elia, and today let me tell you about my 5 favorite books from 2025 while making a bingo card for 2026. Let's go. In 2025, I read 62 books and around 17,000 pages, I think, according to Goodreads. There's a couple of books I did not enter simply because I forgot. I usually take a picture of the books I read when I finish them and then later upload everything on Goodreads. Oh, maybe this is not the best color. Looks funny. We'll see. There's something I've been postponing for a couple of years. I'd like to visit Oxford at some stage. I was there once in 2017, I think. I was on a field trip in Oxford for a day, and I thought I'd come back at some stage. And it's been now 9 years, so it's time for me to go back. And one of my bingo bubble would be to visit Oxford this summer, probably. So my first favorite book of 2025 is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's a classic when it comes to dark academia vibes, and I saw it all over social media again for like a couple of years, 3 years, and last year I eventually found a secondhand copy, so I bought it, and I actually loved it. Like, I was really surprised. I thought, yeah, it's a trend, but I actually enjoyed it. So it's the story of a student, and he's going to study Greek, ancient Greek, and he kind of enters or make friends with a few students. There are very few Greek students in that school. Something bad happens. I'm not going to spoil anything, but something bad happens at the end. And it's basically the whole story of how you got to that accident, that point. And you see the whole thing through the eyes of the narrator, the main character. Again, I forgot his name, I'm so sorry. What I really liked about it was like the mystery. Particularly enjoyed in this book is the fact that you discover little by little, like pieces of a puzzle, what actually happened and how you got to that accident, to that final accident. But yeah, it's hard to talk about this book without ruining it for the other people. Another one of my side quests for 2026 would be to take the C1 certification in German. I've been learning German for 3 years now, and I don't know, for some reason C1 seems an important level for me, academically but also professionally. Like, usually it's much easier to find a job when you can prove your level. I initially intended to do it last winter semester, but I didn't fail the exam because I didn't write it. I just didn't have the time to prepare for it. In 2026, I'd like to actually write the certification. So that's another side quest on my card, on my bingo card, bingo bubble. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm doing here, but it's not really important, is it? My second favorite book of 2025 was one of the first books that I read in German, Brief an den Vater, from Franz Kafka. And it's basically a letter that he wrote to his father, depicting or explaining how he became the person that he is under the influence of his father's behavior and his father's parenting style. Sometimes it's just gut-wrenching. And in this letter, in this very long letter, Kafka reviews his childhood experiences, memories, and shares with his father how he felt and how those experiences made him the person that he became later in life. I think I read somewhere that his dad passed away before he could read the letter, but I am not sure if that's a legend or if it's real. So if you know anything about that, I'd be very curious to hear. Another thing I'd like to do in 2026 is to go on a solo hike. I really like outdoor activities and hiking, especially long distance hiking, but because of work and studies, I could not really do that for the past couple of years. I just didn't find the time to go on a hike. But now that I'm nearing the end of my master's degree, I think it's the right time to go. And I've actually been watching a lot of long distance hiking video this past year, and I decided to go to the Snowdonia National Park and go on a hike there. I still need to figure out the details, like which trail am I going to take, how long exactly am I going to go, etc. I'm slowly starting to build up my equipment, or to buy my equipment, because of course I'm not going to build it. I'm not going to build a tent. I'm not that crafty, I'm not that handy, so I'm just going to buy a tent. But I've been doing some research about what equipment is better, about the climate and the weather in Wales, because the Snowdonia National Park is in Wales, and I'd like to go there by train for some reason. I love taking the Eurostar train. I took it for the first time when I was 10 with my mum. We went to London for a weekend. I don't know, it's so fun. Trains are just so fun. So yeah, Snowdonia, or a long distance hike, is another side quest for 2026. Another book that I really enjoyed in 2025 was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's actually a book that was selected for the local book club. I didn't attend that session, I simply forgot about the session, but I did read the book, and I had watched the Netflix series a couple of years back, so I think I watched it in 2023, and I always had, the series in mind as I was reading the book, so it's quite different. It's much shorter. I was surprised by the length of the book. It's really short. People are going to a haunted house, and supernatural, very weird things happen in the house. They see things, they hear things, and one of them is driven mad by the house. I think everyone was kind of driven mad by the house in the series, but in the book, as far as I know, only one of them, because you only see the experience through the eyes of the narrator, and so you only see the world through her perspective, and you feel like she's the only one going insane. Maybe it's not the case, but I really enjoyed the spookiness of it. I read it around Halloween, so it was perfect. As I said, I really like ghost stories, and I think this one would fit perfectly. And it's a super quick read. I think I read it in like a day and a half. So yeah, highly recommend it. As you may have noticed, I really like languages. And since I achieved a B2 level in German and aiming for C1, I think it's the right time to start another language. And I decided on Korean for this year. So one of my side quests would be to attend language cafes. So my local university is offering language cafes, and this winter semester they're offering for the first time a language cafe in Korean. So I'd like to attend one of those cafes. I do not know if the dates are going to change for the summer semester. Like, if the date could stay the same, that'd be perfect. And if it changes, then I'd have to find a backup option. And if I can't participate in the language cafe, I'd like to participate in a language course at my local uni. If you want to learn something new or develop a new skill, even later in life, you can attend what we call here in Germany the Volkshochschule. They are like adult education center, and they offer different kind of courses, language courses, sports, informatics, foraging, almost everything you can think of. So I think that's pretty cool, and they're really affordable as well. So I'll have to have a look at that before the summer semester starts. I don't know if I'm going to stick to it, honestly. I tried several times, and every single time I stopped. So I hope I will make it this time. Another 2025 favorite is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. I had read most of her fiction books, most of her fiction writing. The Lighthouse, The Waves, Mrs. Dalloway, and I really loved her writing, her ideas. Not knowing that it was a collection of essay. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's based on a conference that she gave. And it's about the necessity of having your own space and your own resources if you are to write fiction. That was not the case for women for most of history. Most of the time women didn't have their own space, their own room to write. The basis of her whole argument. The book is quite short. I think the copy that I had was less than 100 pages. Yeah, there are 6 chapters, all of them talking about the idea of woman and fiction writing through a different time or different perspective. So yeah, I was actually surprised, because honestly when I picked it off the shelf I expected a fiction book, because that's only what I had read from her before. And I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's one of my favorite piece of writing now, piece of non-fiction writing. I think I painted too many bubbles for all the side goals that I had for 2026, so some of them will be decorative, but I'd like to do more sport in 2026. I enrolled at my local fitness studio, like a local gym, and I've been going regularly for the past 2 years, but besides going to the gym, I'm not really active, and I'd like to implement more movement in my everyday life, so more walking, more stretching, maybe more cycling, going to work by bike, for example. That would be one of my side quests. I call them side quests for some reason. I just like that concept. Like it's a mostly concept that you find in video games and board games, but I really like the idea of a side quest. You know, it's not your main goal, but it's something you'd like to achieve on the side, and that would be nice, like extra rewarding. And last but not least, it's actually one of the very last books that I read in 2025. I would highly recommend The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy. I actually went on the internet and printed a reading list for first year students at Oxford University when it comes to English literature, and I decided to try and read some books of that list. And The Woodlanders is one of them. And there is basically the story of a young woman who was offered education by her parents. So it was very important for her parents, who are working in the woods, they are wood merchants, for her to have an education. And their hope was that she would marry above her. Shortly after she came back from her school, like she went back home, a doctor moved in the city. Like, it's not really a city, it's more like a village, but like a doctor moved in the village, and it became one of the father's priority to marry her daughter to that doctor. And it's a whole discussion, or it's a whole story about social classes and marriage between people of different social backgrounds. And I think the book was published at the end of the 19th century, if I'm not mistaken. It's really interesting to see what people considered preferable when it comes to marrying their children. Like, oh, you should marry that person because, you know, they're a doctor, or you should not marry that person because they're only a woodworker, regardless of the romantic feelings that people might have for one another. That's kind of disregarded in favor of how good of a future you can get with another person because that person belongs to a different social background than you, because that person or has a good job or has money, etc. And there are several characters in this book, but most of the relationship that was in the book are, all of the relationships are considered through the lens of the social status. I think that's something we do less nowadays, like in the 21st century, even though that's still the case, but it's not as important as it was back then, I think. Please tell me if I'm wrong. So we've got watercolor, a notebook, brushes, tea, and those are random notes from A Room of One's Own that I wrote when I read the book because I couldn't find my notebook. I usually write them in that notebook. But yeah, there we are. So yeah, that was it. The Secret History, Brief and Enfata, The Woodlanders, A Room of One's Own, and The Haunting of Hill House. I need to wait for those bubbles to dry. Definitely painted way too many bubbles. Like, it's a bit wavy now because it was wet. But yeah, I will enter one side quest in each bubble. Tell me in the comments what were your favorite reads of 2025. I'm very curious. I'm always looking for new books to add to my to be read list. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.